Rachelle Bergstein is a lifestyle writer, author, and editor based in Brooklyn, New York. She was a features editor and journalist for the New York Post for a number of years. Her work also appeared in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Forbes, and much, much more. In addition to all of that, Rachelle has written 3 books: Women from the Ankle Down, the story of shoes and how they define us; Brilliance and Fire, a biography of diamonds; and her most recent, The Genius of Judy, how Judy Blume rewrote childhood for all of us. Rachelle's parents divorced when Rachelle was 5 years old, and she was raised by a single mom, Pauline. So, welcome, Rachelle. Thank you for joining us. I can't wait to hear about your mom, the world's mom, Judy, and all of your upcoming work.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
It seems like forever since we got all this set up, so I'm glad that we are finally here chatting together.
Agreed.
Your mom. Being a mom is hard. We all know that. It's hard being a
Yes.
mom with a partner. So tell me what she was like. Can you, 5 years old, do you remember a different side of your mom when she was still married than when she was a single mom?
Yeah, I do. So my parents got married very young, even for the time. They got married in 1979, right out of college, and they had me at 23 and 24. And I am their only child. My parents have both since remarried, and I have 2 sisters with my dad. But I'm my mother's only child. And when I was little, when my parents were married, she was a stay-at-home mom. She, um, she painted hair clips. She was looking for things to keep busy. She's very artistic. And I remember she had a craft closet and she would paint hair clips, one of which I still actually have.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
and she actually sold them for a little while. But, I think that she was grappling for something fulfilling. And when my parents split up, it sent her down a path of finding what that was. So it's interesting because I'm sure we'll get into this. This is Judy Blume's story as well. And when I was writing about Judy, I was very much thinking about my mom, because, my mom was one of those women who got married and had children and had a lot of drive and intelligence that was sort of sitting somewhere and not being used. And eventually she learned how to use it.
Yay, that's the best part of the story, right?
Yes,
But we do have to go through that journey, right? I mean, not only, for women who are married, you could be married and happily married, but you're still trying to figure out who you are other than being a mom, right? You're
totally.
juggling. Yeah. Did she express herself um, verbally, physically? I mean, that frustration or the heartbreak, it's emotional no matter if you're the one that made the decision that wanting a divorce. How did she handle that situation?
My parents both put on a really brave face for me. So when I was younger, I think they had joint custody, and I think they did a really good job of not involving me in whatever their drama was.
Right.
Um, they always spoke kindly about each other. I would catch little glimpses. I'm very sensitive to people's energy and what's going on around me. So I would catch little glimpses of their irritation with each other. And there are a couple instances that I can remember where they fought in front of me. But in general, they were really pretty cool about it. I think they were both very focused
Hard.
on the project of raising me and having joint custody. And so it didn't really come out until much later in my life what some of their issues were and anything that was unresolved. The lid stayed on the pot for a long time.
That's not healthy. Because it was
I
like,
think they thought they were doing
right.
the right thing, but
Oh,
the lid stay on,
absolutely. Oh
stayed
my
on.
gosh. They did. That was so amazing that they kept it together, right? For
Yes,
your sake.
yes.
And then did it eventually explode after the actual divorce, or did your mom express all of what had been bottled up, or she just went inside to contemplatively?
The lid didn't really blow off the pot until decades later.
Mhm.
Decades later. A lot of it came out around my wedding, which was
Oh
not
no.
ideal. Not ideal, let me say that. But that seemed to be the trigger for a lot of stuff to bubble to the surface. Um,
Mm,
my mom, I think, channeled a lot of that energy when I was younger into, first of all, finding ways to make money because she had been a stay-at-home mom. And
mm,
then when I want to say, I'm not going to get this right, but I want to say 10 or 11, maybe a touch older, she went back to school to become a psychologist. So that became something that was her passion.
yeah,
Um, but, it took her a minute to find it.
but she found it, right?
She found it.
Is she still working today?
She is.
Oh,
She is. We joke, me and my stepfather joke she's going to work until she's 80. She's going to be one of those. She just loves it.
yeah, that's the way to go. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right?
I don't know that that's totally true because I love what I do and I do feel like I'm working sometimes. But yeah, I think overall, if you love what you do, it feels like a part of you.
Yeah. Plus, she's helping others, right?
Yes.
As a psychologist, so that's
Yeah.
pretty great. So, what kind of a relationship did you have? Was everything open and on the table? You spoke freely to her about anything and everything?
When I was growing up, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I didn't, I would not say I spoke freely to her about anything and everything. I also, I drove a lot of my anxiety and disappointment about my parents' marriage inward.
Mm,
I kind of soldiered through. And it took me a long time to learn how to express those feelings and let them out. Um, but my mom was very open about certain topics like sex ed. She was very cool about that stuff. She was very cool about self-expression.
mm.
She always encouraged my writing. She always said, wear, whatever you want. I want to caveat that because sexy was an issue. If she ever felt I was dressing too sexy, she didn't like
Ah,
that.
interesting. Yeah.
But like I could express myself, I could be, funky or whatever. She didn't
Yeah.
mind that kind of stuff. She always said I could pierce whatever I wanted, but no tattoos before 18, which I listened to. Um, I could dye my hair any color, which I really didn't, to be honest, but like I knew I could if I really wanted to. So she was pretty cool about self-expression. She was open about, puberty and sexuality and things like that, which is where I think I get some of my passion for writing about that stuff
Yeah.
and some of my comfort with writing about that stuff, I would guess. Um, but no, I wouldn't say we talked about our feelings all the time.
Did your friends hang out at your house with your mom or your wherever you lived with your mom because she was maybe not there all the time, or she was one of the cool moms to hang around
No, we did hang out at my house. Um, my mom was, when she went back to school, she was always studying. So my house was really quiet. So it's not
with?
like my friends were unwelcome, but we just ended up gravitating towards different houses. My friend Jess, my very close friend Jess from high school, who I'm still friends with, like she had the basement and the mom that would put out the snacks. So we went there a lot.
Do you have go-to get-togethers with your mom or something special that you automatically know you like a movie night or something these days, or do you
My
spend
mom,
much time with her?
I do. She until recently has come to my apartment once a week from New Jersey to help out with my son. And it's given them a really special relationship that means that they have spent a lot of time together. And now she comes every other week because my son, is busier and feeling like he wants to spend more time with his friends and less time with his grandma,
Yeah.
which she handled really well.
Oh boy,
But
that was
she
like
and
an
I,
open conversation. That
Yeah,
was
it was. I mean, he told
wow.
me and then I told her. You know, it's not like he was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
Grandpa,
yeah.
I'd like you to come less, but he found a way to make his voice heard.
Oh, that's so
And
great.
yeah, it was great. And, my mom and I will occasionally grab a drink or go out to dinner. We go to a Broadway show here and there.
Oh,
So
that's
we have our
wonderful.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If there was anything that she felt that you were maybe straying too far, when you were a teenager, or she didn't like your attitude, would she say, let's have a sit down and chat at Friday at 3? Or was it like,
No.
what's with you?
Definitely more the latter. Okay, so this is a really funny story about my mom, and I think it'll give you a sense of who she is. We were not getting along when I was a teenager. We just were, sorry, that's the sound from my washing machine. Talking about being a mom, I'm always doing laundry. Um, she and I would butt heads. We're very different in some fundamental ways. I think we see the world and experience the world a little bit differently. And when I was a teenager, that became more pronounced, of course. So my mom at some point bought, I want to get this right. She bought these like foam boppers, like so that we could hit
Hit each other with them.
each other with them. We felt like
That's
we needed to get it out. So, and I feel like we actually did a couple of times and we'd end up laughing and my stepfather would be like, "What the hell is going on?"
ah,
And yeah, so like she definitely was like a sometimes you just need to go punch a pillow or whatever and like sometimes you need to hit your mom or your kid with a foam roller.
and
Um
that's okay.
and it's okay. So that's what we did.
So does she have a sense of humor on a semi-regular basis, or was it like
She
a
does have a sense of
therapeutic?
humor. She has a very loud laugh. That's something I can tell you about my mom. She has this, I want to call it a cackle
Can
that
you repeat it?
it's like it's really, really loud. And we'll go out to restaurants and she'll laugh and like the whole everyone will turn around. It's very unique. And depending on my mood, sometimes I love it and sometimes I'm like, Mom, keep it down. But yeah, that's her.
Wow, that's pretty great. Does she have siblings?
She does. She's one of five.
And where did she grow up?
She grew up in New Jersey. I'm like something crazy like third or fourth generation New Jersey. So
That's
I
pretty
think,
cool. Right?
yeah, her grandparents were immigrants, and then her parents were born here, and she was born in New Jersey, and I was born in New Jersey, and then I moved very far away to Brooklyn, New York. If you ask my parents, it's like, oh God, you're so far. The traffic is so bad.
After the divorce, were you stuck in the middle between your dad and your mom? Was it jealousy on either of their side as to who you were communicating with or being
Yeah,
open with?
I think so. I think they tried to hide it, but I did feel it. I
It
did feel
hurt.
it.
They were hurt.
Yeah, I think that they both really felt, well, a little competitive, to be honest,
For your
about,
attention
yeah, I do think that a little bit. Um,
and understand them.
I think I'm still working. I mean, I'm very close to my parents, so I think I'm still kind of like working out some of those kinks for myself.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is.
And do you, your son, he knows they're divorced. Do you talk about that kind of relationship that you went through with your mom and how you wanted to be different with you and things like that?
I don't know if we've ever explicitly talked about that, but I think my husband and I are both children of divorce, both children of joint custody divorces, and it would not have been either of our first choices. So we're like really committed. Once we had kids, we were like, we are just, or a kid, we were like, we're gonna do
Smother you with,
this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna be together and we're gonna raise him differently.
that's great. As long as you're, just got to be on the same page, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, you got to be that team that's all working in the same direction because things can go awry.
Yeah, I mean, we really try. We talk about a lot. We have a very open house, and my husband and I, we've been together a very long time. We met in college, and we didn't get married for, 10 years at least before
Oh,
we'd been
that's
together. So we really knew each other.
mhm.
And yeah, we do have good practice of like talking through stuff.
your relationship with your mom, has that influenced your writing style at all?
My writing
Books that you
style,
choose to write about.
well, a little, I mean, I would say that she has impacted my love of shoes. I would say that when I was
Book.
writing, yes, I wrote a book about shoes. She also really loves fashion and clothing and style, so that's something that we bond over.
Mhm.
Um, I thought, as I said, I thought a lot about her when I was writing about Judy because she and Judy have things in common. Getting married very young, having children young, searching for purpose. Judy Blume was married 3 times. My mother has been married 3 times. So there were a lot of things I thought of her as I was writing this book.
Did you think of it because I know you inherited gobs of hand-me-down Judy Blume books and you gobbled them all up? Was this something that maybe was in the back of your mind from a youngish age, the similarity, or not till you started writing and all that kind of stuff?
Not at all till I started
Okay.
writing, because of course I knew nothing about Judy, the
Oh,
author, right?
right,
I
her
just knew the
background. Yeah.
characters. So it was just kind of like a happy coincidence that I felt like I could get inside her story. Like I felt like I had lived it a little bit. And that was cool. That was a cool way to approach someone's experience.
Yeah, because it's an emotional thing, but it's a great foundation, not as though you're writing about a character, because Judy is obviously a real person, but she
Mm.
got married very young, right out of, did she just finish college? Her dad had just died shortly before she got married. And most people think, yes, we're gonna get married, we're gonna have some kids, and we're all gonna be happy, go lucky, and it's gonna be great. But she didn't know who she was.
No, not at all. And she says that she was an adolescent living the life of an adult woman, and she had to grow up.
She,
And when Judy talks about her second marriage in particular, so she was pregnant before she graduated from college, right? So she really was on an accelerated track. And then after her divorce, she married someone very quickly and had kind of a disastrous second marriage that ultimately made her grow a lot. And this is not dissimilar from my mother's story. So yeah, it was really interesting to kind of see
put
it
that all
through
together.
Judy's eyes.
Yeah. But she admits that that second marriage was not right. When they're out in New Mexico or something, and then they were in different places for a while. But as I often say, we have to make our own journey, right? We have to take those steps, whether it works out the way we want them to or not. You have to. You can't just settle for things. Well, at least for me, happiness is not settling for anything, right? So that's
Right.
part of the journey.
Right.
And Judy got into a lot of trouble, critical, as we know. Social media wasn't around then, but the media can be tough on people. And she was just trying to get something started here. And those people that were panning her work, it's like, oh my gosh, really? Like, you guys got to take a breath. It was terrible.
She got some really nasty reviews, and I do think there's a drop of misogyny in many of them.
Yeah.
That, someone who was writing for not just women, but girls couldn't be considered a serious writer. I mean, that doesn't seem like a coincidence to me,
Yeah.
that she was writing about things that interested middle school girls, um, made it seem as though she wasn't doing anything important to some critics.
And look who's still present uh, today. It's Judy Blume and her work, even though it's been banned. It's on that most banned list. Hard to imagine, along with some other classics. But she is still um, taking those sensitive topics that kids, teenagers can't get from their parents, or they're not comfortable getting the information from their parents, or getting misinformation from their friends. And she just wrote it so naturally. It was, you weren't, I'm sure there were people were blushing, right? Teens were blushing behind that book. But at least she just said it so in such a natural way. It's really
Yeah,
comforting to read.
It's really funny because I do talks related to this book and I read certain passages aloud because I want people to understand what it is that I'm really talking about when I say that Judy Blume wrote, frankly, about human sexuality and about puberty and things. So I just did the Savannah Book Festival and I read this passage aloud from Deanie, which mentions masturbation and defines it for a room full of children. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I'm in Georgia. Like I'm gonna get arrested. So I was like, don't don't call the police. This was written in 1973. It's cool. It's cool. So it is funny. I think my point is that that stuff is still controversial today.
Still very controversial. But so many people got that heads up too from reading her book, and hopefully the waters will not part for very much longer, and they will be, at everyone's fingertips, accessible to everybody, because that's what's important. I also want to talk to you about your two books.
Sure.
Did you enjoy writing one over the other? Women from the Ankle Down or Brilliance and Fire? They're two completely different.
I enjoyed them differently. Um, I think I personally was more excited about shoes in general. Like I am a true shoe lover.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that I'm a diamond collector. I mean, who is a diamond collector, right? Um, but I felt more grounded in the process of reporting and researching that book because I knew what I was doing more. So it's like the content of the first book appealed to me more on a personal level, but the second book, I just felt so much more capable. So I have really different memories of writing those two books. The
Yeah,
first one, I always felt like I also was working part-time when I was writing it, so I was really I felt like I was walking a tightrope in a lot of ways. It was a stressful
you're
experience.
juggling a lot.
Yeah, the second one I just felt like, oh, okay, I've done this already. I've got this a little bit more, and that confidence felt really good.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I would love to see a coffee table book of photos, shoe coffee table book. Have you ever
I
thought of that?
know. There are some great shoe coffee table books, and one of the biggest criticisms of that book, kind of hilariously, is that it doesn't have photos, right? It was like
Wait, what?
yeah, people would write Amazon reviews like, great book, no photos, 1 star. I'm
But
exaggerating.
that's what I would love. I mean, you go from stilettos to platforms to Doc Martens, the whole cultural gambit here, and it would be a beautiful shoe book. I'm sure
It
you've
would.
thought of it before.
It would.
As a beautiful book of diamonds and stones and gems.
So that diamond book does have photos because
Right?
of the
Yes.
responses that we got to the first one. I made sure when I wrote that book proposal, like we're gonna have a big color photo section.
Well, hallelujah. You listen to your
We
your
listen to the
fans.
readers. Yes, you ask, I deliver.
So anything in the works? Are you taking a break for a while?
You know, I do have some ideas that I'm toying around with. When I finished, if you read The Genius of Judy, a lot of it is about the second wave feminist movement. And when I finished that book, I personally was really excited to start reading further into the feminist movement into the 1980s and the 90s, when arguments over censorship, not against the right, but within the movement itself, reached a kind of fevered pitch. So that's the general idea of the stuff I've been working on. I'm really still interested in the censorship conversation, and I think it's really relevant to what's going on today.
It really is. And I'm sure it will always be, whether it's in our history books or current day. It's not what we should be experiencing here in America or anywhere, and there's a lot of that. Um, Before I told you I wanted to talk about the journey that you put me on as a reader in your books. And it was beautiful. And Women from the Ankle Down and The Genius of Judy, I found myself transported in a way from in Women from the Ankle Down, you were talking about Salvatore Ferragamo as a little boy in Italy, and his mom needed shoes made for the two daughters for the first communion, I believe, and he snuck into the little shoe factory and he got the materials to make brand new shoes in the middle of the night. To present them the morning of the first communion for, I think it was his sisters or someone in his town. And then at 11, he left home to go closer to Naples to make shoes. And it's a beautiful story. It's just so wonderful. And then you go on to everything in the book. And the same thing with the genius of Judy. We're talking about Judy Blume, how she came, she was born in the US, but the late 30s, she was experiencing Hitler in the news all the time from World War II. And she was of a Jewish family living in New Jersey. And all of a sudden she is transitioning about her life experiencing before she got married. And that's trying to make arts and crafts, as a mom, trying to make some money, and people are being critical and raising her children. Even her daughter wrote one book. Is that correct?
Her daughter did. Her daughter became a pilot.
She's a pilot.
Yes, and then she wrote a novel, but very much based on her own experiences of being a pilot, like a female pilot, which was unusual.
How great is that?
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden I'm reading about Gloria Steinem and the women's lib, and it was just such a natural flow, a beautiful, transition from one story to the next, and I can't even imagine how much work that is to piece this all together. And you have a whole index in the back.
Thank you for noticing.
I'm not that type personality to do that, but it's there. Every quote, everything, it's in the index. It's remarkable.
Thank you. Yes, the sourcing I do myself. That's where you show your work and you show where you got certain material and certain information from. The index I can't take credit for. So the publisher has someone do the index where it's like, you're looking up someone's name and you can see what page it's mentioned on. Yes, so my publisher, they source the index elsewhere. I didn't do that. It seems like
it's still a lot. It's the sources and everything. There's a lot of work involved here, all your notes and everything. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
You didn't just write a great book. You had to do all that other work as well. And people can find you on social media, right? Rachelle Bergstein.
Yes, I'm at RachelleBergstein.com. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, all the usual places.
And RachelleBergstein.com, your website, right?
Yes.
That's what we just talked about. So I really want to thank you. I'm so glad that we got a chance to talk.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and please say hi to your mom.
Hi, Mom.
And we'll be back next week with another episode of Should Have Listened to My Mother. Bye.